Hello everybody, welcome back. It's Friday and that means F1 Fantasy Final Thoughts time. We're going into the Mexican Grand Prix and I've been on a bit of a downer all week, to be honest. I've been ill for the last 2 weeks basically. This stomach bug has just been ongoing, but today I finally like genuinely feel like properly better. So finally getting a video out. What a tough couple of weeks it's been because my fantasy team it took a massive hit last week. It took a massive hit bringing in the Mercedes as I don't know, I got sidetracked by the new tool on F1 Fantasy Tools. I'm not going to blame that entirely. I still had this like gut feeling, which I still linked to my stomach bug, but I had a gut feeling that Mercedes were going to do all right around COTA, and obviously it was horrendously bad. And I wanted to back myself against the sort of 89% Ferrari owned in the top 500. I figured that the numbers would be similar across the top few thousand, and I said in my deadline stream, oh, if I go Mercedes and they do well, then I'm going to jump ahead of a bunch of people. But obviously, if it's a disaster, which it was, then I'm going to fall back. So yeah, I've dropped about 3,000 places, and dreams of top 1,000 may be over. It depends entirely, basically, if my three times DRS can really jump me back up. But I've basically lost out on about 70 points because I took this bit of an unnecessary gamble. I'm still, I'm annoyed that it turned out that way. I knew it could turn out that way, but at the same time, I'm still, at the time, I wanted to follow my gut instinct, which was Mercedes, and it just turned out to be wrong. And sometimes you just have to accept that. So, going into Mexico, though, I do think that it might be time to correct this mistake that I've made. I'd say, yeah, it's definitely quite a big mistake, and it's just left me feeling a bit like meh. Like, I don't know, I was working towards that top 1,000 and I just took this unnecessary gamble. So anyway, I think it's pretty much no brainer now to go back to Ferrari, and I know it feels like a bad thing. So like I've tried to move away from the Ferrari to make that jump ahead of the other 90% of people that own Ferrari, but I have to accept it was wrong to do. And I think going back onto Ferrari, even though it feels bad to just kind of jump off them, they do really well, and then go back on them again. Feels bad, but this game isn't about feelings, it's about what's right. And what's right for me at the moment, before we've had all the practice sessions, is that Ferrari are just going to be the best option, at least between them and Mercedes. Mercedes already a couple of listened to the interviews. The Ferrari seem to think that this track will suit them. Mercedes are kind of like meh. George is still running the old updates. Lewis Hamilton's got the new updates. The car was unpredictable and unstable last week around COTA. Are they going to really iron that out this weekend? I'm recording this, funnily enough, actually at the time of FP1. So FP1 is actually currently running now. It's about halfway through. I was watching the first bit of it and there was a red flag, and I was like, okay, they'll pick it back up, it'll be fine. And then Albon crashed into Behrman, and there were red flags. I can't be bothered to sit around whilst there's a red flag. I'm just going to go start recording this because I actually genuinely think we're not going to find out very much for these practice sessions because, like I say, we already had 2 red flags. We've got loads of rookies out there in FP1. FP2, there's, I believe there's tyre testing things. So we're not going to be able to see like a normal FP2 as to who's actually going to be good this weekend. So yeah, I've just kind of thought I'll just jump on it, just get this video out there for people that care about my final thoughts. Like after last week going for the Mercedes, people might be thinking like, well, sorry Tom, but I've lost all faith in you. But anyway, hopefully we can regain some faith by this weekend. So like I say, I'm looking to go back to the Ferraris. I think they're just very strong at the moment. Like they didn't bring any upgrades to COTA, and maybe that was kind of a great thing actually, because it meant they knew their car, they knew what to expect. Whereas with that one practice session for the Mercedes with these updates, they just couldn't dial it in properly. And yeah, big mistake going Mercedes. I do admit, but anyway. So I think Ferrari are going to be, for me, the best option to bring back in. If you've already got Ferrari, then you're in a great position. Past that, I could save a transfer, but again, I don't really see needing 3 free transfers anytime particularly soon. Maybe I need some of that flexibility. I'd definitely like 3 transfers going into Qatar, where I'm likely to use my 3 times chip. I've only got 2 sprints left. Brazil, I could still use it in Brazil, but I'm more likely to use it in Qatar at this stage. I'll probably use autopilot, which is my only other remaining chip in whichever one I don't use it in. So my likely plan is at the moment autopilot Brazil and 3 times in Qatar. But anyway, my point is that until that point, I don't really care about 3 free transfers. I just use my transfers up to maximise the best possible team. And admittedly, this could well be the best possible team I can afford with this budget. But at the same time, I am kind of tempted to just ditch off the triple McLaren and bring in Leclerc. Now, I will say that McLaren have got a new floor And you know, when McLaren bring like a big upgrade, it generally works really well. So it does. I am certainly like on the fence a little bit about moving Piastri to Leclerc. I think Piastri could still be a um, fantastic option here. But again, Leclerc is also a fantastic option. We can't have all of them. Leclerc's just banging in podiums, winning races. He looks like he's really matured this season, and that's not to say he's not been a good driver in previous seasons, but this season he just looks more safe, secure, consistent, and on the back of that last race win, I'm just kind of filled with confidence to back the Ferraris at the moment, and that's why I'm very tempted to go Leclerc over Piastri, but at the same time, I could very well just kind of sit on Piastri and just kind of be happy with it. But yeah, practice sessions, like I say, underway at the moment of time to recording. FP2 probably won't tell us very much. FP3 will hopefully give us a bit more information, at least let us fine tune, maybe see some quick see what the quick runs look like, because I'm sure they'll be doing some soft tyre running like as I speak right now as time of recording. But either way, like I said, it's not going to affect my thinking too much. My main thinking is I made a big mistake last weekend. It's destroyed by rank. It's time to just admit defeat and go back to the Ferrari choo-choo train. And that's not to say that Mercedes can't do well and maybe won't do well, but the truth is that the last few races, the Mercedes have just been too unpredictable. They look fantastic one day, like on a Friday, then they suck on the Saturday and they're kind of somewhere else on the Sunday, or vice versa. You know, they look awful on the Friday, then they're suddenly like qualifying P1, P2, but then the race kind of falls away, or there's just no real consistency across the weekend, and it's frustrating. To kind of go down that route, whereas Ferrari just look much more consistent to me, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. So if my budget, you know, squeezes nearly every penny out of my budget, I'll be quite happy to go with this. In terms of the 2 times, that's actually a really interesting thought, because it's just like a no-brainer in recent weeks to go Lando Norris, Lando Norris, Lando Norris. And of course, if he looks particularly confident through the practice sessions, and that McLaren new floor looks like it's working really well, then I think it's a great option. But I also think Charles Leclerc could be a great option, and that's another reason to make that transfer from Piastri to Leclerc, because we know Norris will be favoured over Piastri. We also have a good idea that Leclerc is going to be favoured over Sainz. Sainz is on his way out of the team in a few races' time. Leclerc is obviously the golden boy for Ferrari, and he's got, you know, like a tiny outside chance of winning the championship, or at least pushing forward in terms of the constructor championship. I think that Ferrari are definitely going to favour Leclerc if the opportunity comes up. Whether Sainz is going to be team player in that regard, I don't know. Like, you know, on his way out, he maybe just wants to win another race with Ferrari before he goes out, because, you know, in Sainz's head, is he gonna have many more opportunities to win a race? So if we have like a Ferrari 1-2 of Sainz in the lead, are we actually going to see Sainz step aside for Leclerc? I actually think, like, in a normal situation, Sainz would step aside, but I think just there's a chance, because, you know, like in Sainz's head, he's thinking, I want to win another race, and maybe I won't have that opportunity for racing for Williams going forward. So he will just, you know, will hold on to that. But either way, I do think in general, if anyone's going to be favoured in Ferrari, it will be Leclerc, and therefore he's actually a very viable 2 times option as well. Do believe he's one of the drivers. In fact, Lando and Leclerc are both sitting out of FP1 from what I remember. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do in FP2, and particularly in FP3, where we got the proper tyre selection going forward in FP3. So yeah, in terms of the 2 times, where am I thinking right now? I think just about leaving on Lando Norris, just about. Partly because of this new upgrade, and I think the McLarens are just good with the upgrade. Partly because I think the track should suit the McLarens as well. But also, I don't know, but then the track's going to suit Ferraris as well. It's actually a really tough one. Lando Norris is still pushing for that, you know, the Drivers' Championship. Leclerc is also kind of in with a sniff of it. If I had to pick right this second, I think I would just stick with Norris. But then at the same time, moving it over to Leclerc could be a good opportunity to, again, like I tried to do last week and failed miserably, like I tried to do by going with Mercedes and going up against the grain, perhaps putting the 2 times on Charles Leclerc could be a way of going up against the masses. You know, the top few thousand global were probably, you know, holding true to Lando Norris on the 2 times, so maybe having that differential 2 times on Leclerc is appealing, and it's less of a risk. You know, what I did last week was a big risk, and I knew it was a big risk, and it obviously didn't pay off at all. It was a disaster because of the DNF or whatever. but also because of the Ferrari's extremely good performance. But I think that this is a very close decision between Lando and Charles, and perhaps, if after all the practice sessions it's still a very close decision, then maybe just go with Leclerc, who is actually the same ownership, funny enough, 30% and 31%, pretty much the same ownership. But I imagine in the top few thousand, Lando's more heavily owned. That said, post COTA, I imagine there'll be quite a few more Leclerc owners, but maybe just putting the 2 times in is enough for it to be a quite interesting differential. In terms of the rest of the crew I've got going on here, for my budget, I literally can't really change anyone. I don't want Guan Yu Zhou in particular. Bottas is still kind of fine. One other thing actually to note, just before I go on about the rest of my team, I did see somewhere actually, I talk about these McLaren upgrades, now I'm just remembering, that I think these upgrades for McLaren might only be on Lando Norris's car. I think I read that somewhere earlier today, so should have thrown that in there earlier, but I've only just remembered. So yeah, that's another reason maybe to move off Piastri into Leclerc for me personally. Obviously not everyone's going to have the same budget as me, so what are the options past that? Carlos Sainz obviously comes in a 2 million cheaper than Piastri, so if you can't afford a Leclerc or a Piastri in this second premium driver slot, then I think Sainz is an option. I do think that there's some people that are still staying true to this one premium driver plus 4 of the best C tier. The C tier drivers are pretty rank at the moment, so Colapinto's offering fantastic value. He just keeps on climbing value. He's scoring points. Albon, yes, he just had that big crash in FP1, but I'm sure they've got enough time to repair the car, and he seems like a good bet as well. And then Bottas for me, yeah, I mean, if he can avoid a DNF, then I'm kind of happy. That's kind of where I'm at with Bottas. Of course, I would love to have the budget to afford someone like a Hulkenberg, a Magnussen, or ideally Liam Lawson. I think Lawson's a great option. He's very owned, big differential, driving for his seat next year. And had a fantastic performance around COTA. If I had an extra, million or 2 million, then I could probably quite easily move Albon up to a Lawson. I'd be very happy to do that, but it's just not going to happen anytime soon for me. So yeah, I still do believe in this premium, double premium with the 3 kind of bottom of the rank C tier assets. So yeah, that's kind of my thinking at the moment in terms of chips. Not going to be using any chips. Like I say, me personally, I only have 2 chips left. Autopilot 3 times. That's kind of booked up for the 2 remaining sprints. I don't think many people will be using chips this weekend. The only one really open is probably Final Fix if you've still got that. I've used mine up to no effect earlier on in the season. So yeah, those kind of my final thoughts kind of summed up, I guess. To summarise, I suppose it is correct my hideous mistake of going Mercedes last week, bring back the Ferraris, bring in Charles Leclerc over Piastri probably, but not definitely yet. We'll see exactly how Piastri performs through the practice sessions. And if I do bring Leclerc, very potential differential on the 2 times there, just to space things out a bit. Maybe we trust Leclerc a little bit. Maybe Lando Norris, just that racecraft doesn't quite fill me with confidence. He keeps losing those positions from race starts, and I don't know. We were all saying a different thing after Singapore just a few weeks ago. How dominant Norris was, and I don't know. The script changes very quickly in Formula One, and particularly in F1 Fantasy. Our favors, driver favourites are changed on a weekly basis. So I don't know. This is kind of where I'm settling at the moment. We'll see what the practice sessions bring us. Another reason why I'm doing this video sort of in the middle of FP1 is because of the timings in England, in the UK. Like the FP2 doesn't finish until after midnight or something ridiculous, and it's just I don't want to stay up that late. I'm not built for that after being ill for the last 2 weeks. So yeah, apologies. The lack of content the last couple of weeks. Like I say, it's genuinely I've just been ill, and it's been really rubbish. But I am definitely feeling better. Thank you for anyone that's wish me well in the comments, etc. Yeah, if anyone's got any questions, I'll do my best to answer them in the comments below. If not, then I'll probably be around a bit over on Twitter ahead of the deadline. I think the deadline's about 10 o'clock at night or something, 10 o'clock on Saturday night here in the UK. So my kids will be in bed, and I'll likely be able to keep in touch with you on Twitter, or if anyone wants to comment on the videos, then I'll try and keep abreast of what's going on there as well. But yeah, final thoughts are this is kind of where I'm heading. Thanks very much for bearing with me. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you again because there's another race coming up. Oh my goodness, another race. So yeah, let's enjoy this one first of all. Have a great weekend, and yeah, thanks for watching. Bye for now.